So here's what I've been thinking about. We spend a lot of money on corporate welfare. Take GM, for example, which is one of the most extreme cases, whereby our politicians, both on the left and the right, and the right better not get it twisted, they're just as guilty of this as the left is. When a corporation, especially a foreign corporation like General Motors, is in trouble, they won't hesitate to give them bail money. They won't hesitate to answer their every whim and their every beck and call. They won't hesitate to do any of that. But then look how General Motors treats Canada. The same Canada which gave them millions, billions probably, in bailout money to help them stay in Canada and invest in Canada. We were all told that if we don't give them bailout money, the whole community would collapse. Everything would collapse. The world would go to hell and back, and then go to hell again. That's what we were told. Same thing with the banks. I mean, look at America. Look at Lehman Brothers. They were given bailout after bailout. You had Bush saying, "Oh, if we don't do this, the world is going to collapse and we'll have another Great Depression." Same thing with Obama. Talk about the left and the right working together. So my point is that corporate welfare, which is something that our politicians are all too happy to commit to, has caused us nothing but betrayal and backstabbing. Look what's happening in Oshawa right now, my hometown. People are going to lose their jobs because GM wants to move to Mexico and pay workers less of a salary and exploit them. That's what's happening. And now the community is going to be completely destitute. The banks did the same thing in 2008 in the United States and Europe. So here's what I got to say. I don't know if I'll ever be, well, first of all, I'll never be a politician. If I were to ever run for anything, I would be a statesman. I would never be a politician. Make that clear. Michael Arana will never be a politician. There's a difference between being a politician and a statesman. A politician makes it his or her career to be a part of government. A statesman does what he or she needs to do to make things better, get the job done, and then leave with a great legacy, or try to. I want to be a statesman. Now, if I ever were to become a statesman, which many of you have suggested that I do, here's what I would do. First of all, there'd be no corporate welfare anymore. That should be done. I mean, these politicians always talk about, oh, the greatest welfare is a job and get a job and welfare queen and all this sort of stuff. I mean, you got people working 2, 3 jobs, sometimes even 4 jobs, and they're living in their vans. I mean, I was watching a documentary on the working poor in the United Kingdom. Same thing in Canada, same thing in the United States, which has the worst example. So there'd be no more, but then the corporate welfare, the banks, these big companies, nobody hesitates. Nobody hesitates to give them any money. But the common man, oh, the debt, the deficit. So there'd be no corporate welfare. If you need money, then here's what we do. We take the workers, we take a little bit out of their paycheck and we give it to the company. The workers would have a job, a secure job. They'd be knowing that their company is being taken care of financially. They'd be knowing that the company's taking care of itself, and the public would know that we're not using their tax dollars to bail out some company for the mistakes that they made. So that's number one. And number two, instead of corporate welfare and, bailing out the big corporations and the big banks, why not bail the people out? I mean, we never talk about bailing the people out. Here we have millions of people out there who want to work, who want to be successful, who want to contribute to society, who want to join the middle class, and many of them struggle and struggle and struggle. There has never been wage increases. Our wages are stagnant. I mean, when people work and they're still going to food banks, you got teachers working who still have to go to food banks. Same thing with nurses. Here's what I would do. You've heard of crown corporations like the LCBO, Hydro One, all that stuff. They like to say that that's a public corporation, but I've never gotten any profit from that public corporation. Last time I checked, I'm part of the public. Same thing with you. So the profits that the government gets from public corporations, and not to mention the profits when it comes to not just profits, but profits in dividends, stocks, and all that stuff, plus the royalties they receive from our natural resources, which again, I was told belong to the public. The profits they get from public corporations and royalties gets divided up and sent to every single individual of the country. That's what I would do. Now, I'm more interested in provincial politics, so I would focus on Ontario. Let's say I became premier. That's one of my first things that I would do. The government is not going to get, the only money that the government gets is the money that I pay in taxes and that you pay in taxes, whether it's income tax or sales tax, because that's me saying, here, I am giving you this money so that you can give us roads and bridges and all that other stuff. That public money that the government gets from corporations and from royalties, that doesn't belong to the government. That belongs to the people. So it needs to be divided up equally amongst the people. And you can call it, what do they call it, a basic income? You can call it that. But it's not going to be a basic income where the government goes into debt and all that stuff. It's the money that belongs to the people. It's not free money. It's your money. Your money is not free. It's your money. You deserve it. Now, people might say, oh, well, that's the money for the government that they need to fix the roads and medical care and all this other stuff and veterans. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Look at our healthcare system right now. Look at Ontario. Look at Alberta. Look at Quebec. You got people who go to the hospital who are in hallways, who have to sleep in hallways, and in some cases even have to sleep in bathrooms. Look at our veterans. Our military is very underfunded. Our veterans literally have to sue their government to keep the basic benefits that they deserve for serving their country. The 407 in Greater Toronto area was privatized in the 90s, so that's the road issue right there. Our classroom sizes are growing out of control. In some cases, you've got schools with no cafeteria. So the point that I'm making is that it looks like the people know how to spend that money, which they're deserved to get, more than the government can. Because right now, it looks like the government's not doing a very good job at spending the money that belongs to us. The only thing they seem great at doing is giving billions of dollars to other countries and $10 million to a terrorist, Omar Khadr. So it looks like the money that we deserve, because it's a public corporation, would be better suited in our hands than in the government's hands. And that's where I stand on that issue. Many people have asked, what's your opinion on basic income? Well, you got it right there. I'm against putting a province or a country in further debt to get basic income. However, I am for giving the public its money back. The profits that the government gets from public corporations and royalties, however much that is, billions of dollars, whatever it is, should be divvied out to every citizen of our society. It's their money. And stop bailing out these big corporations like GM and the banks, only for them to stab us in the back and move overseas or shut down and ruin our economy. Something that our so-called caretakers of our politicians told us would happen if we didn't bail them out. This is the Arana Nation.